Hey folks, Salty Seaman here. I want to talk to you guys a little bit today in Tales from the Fleet about skating and also about how to properly skate and when to know when to hold them, when to know when to fold them. Now, some of these stories will be stuff I've touched on other Tales from the Fleet, obviously. Skating is a long, rich tradition, goes back far. So some of these I have covered, but I'll go in a little more depth and describe why they're a good idea and why some of them are a bad idea. Now, I think I'll start off with my first time hearing the term skate. It was covered in my first arrival in Yokosuka video. So let's look at that one a little bit. As I said in that one, I got through boot camp and A school without ever hearing the term skate or what it means, or if I did hear it, I just didn't have context for it and it didn't stick. And I ended up, I think on my second or third day in TPU, if those of you don't know, TPU is Transient Personnel Unit. That's where they keep you if you are waiting for a ship or you're on medical hold, something like that. You're supposed to be somewhere else. Sometimes they don't have anywhere else for you to go. But regardless, I was in Yokosuka. I was waiting on the Blue Ridge either to pull into port or us to fly out. So basically to keep you busy and earn your paycheck, they find little odds and ends for you to do in these TPUs. This one, it was pretty laid back. A lot of times it was just they send people out to collect garbage. And there's a supervisor from CPU who drives around the van, makes sure everyone's doing it. And you're pretty much off from muster till lunchtime, and you got to report back for, muster before lunch. So, like the third day I was there, this guy says, "Hey, I'm a skater. How about you?" And I'm like, I skated in high school, I guess. He was like, "No, and explain the concept of skating off from work, gold bricking. I think is a term that's used by some of the other services. Navy and Marine Corps, we say skate." I was like, "Oh, okay. So what do we do?" He's like, "Just go back to our rooms, show back up for the muster." Now, this was a bad idea, it turns out. We actually, didn't get into trouble, and after that I watched myself more carefully. But, basically the guy never saw the two of us. And, we swore up and down, we'd been out there picking up, and, we described our path, well enough. He says, like, "Where were you?" I was like, "Oh, we were over at..." I mean, I didn't. I'd been there 3 days, but my guy had been on that base for a while. He knew, and was, he was, he could at least give enough information that made it sound plausible. And I don't think he was completely convinced, but he let it go at that moment. But I also knew at that moment I wasn't going to get another chance with that guy. So you got to kind of wonder, where did that go wrong? Now, first mistake was completely not doing the route at all. That's just rookie stuff, and this guy should have been better. Possibly he just got away with it so many times. He just, kind of forgot his skating roots. And that is part of that is plausible deniability. He at least knew enough to know, the route he was supposed to walk on and could describe it at least. But in this case, this is a situation where, possibly the skating shouldn't have been, the idea was we just both wanted to go back to the room and sleep the rest of the time. However, there should have been made the smarter thing to do, I should say, is we should have done the route up until... whenever we saw the van. One of us keeps lookout for whenever we would be spotted because we knew that was, going to happen. So, not, knowing that there was a good chance someone would come back and ask where we were, it should have been, at least on his mind, me as the, brand new fucking boot 3 days in Japan. I don't know any better. I'm going to count on this airman from the fucking, random airman from the Independence to tell me what's up. So... yeah, we got away with it, but, the smarter thing to do is just wait for when you see the van. It's a risk. It could be near the end of the shift, but, so you have to play it a little safe sometimes because that's a situation where that could have ended up pretty bad for us. Now, here's a good example of one that worked for a very long time, but maybe he tried for too long and he got very lucky again at the end. And I'm pretty sure I've told this story about my friend Seaman DeReich. I played D&D with him. He was in deck department. He hung out with the guy Cole. He was a little bit of an odd duck, but he was a fun guy to talk to. He smoked like a chimney. We hung out, D&D or on the smoke deck. And one day I'm on the smoke deck, and here he comes up to me. He's got a marlin spike and a piece of line in his hand. Puts them, prominently displayed on his outside of his deck coveralls, and lights up a smoke and proceeds to tell me his latest scam, which has been going swimmingly at this point. It was probably looking at nearly a week. And he just kind of was in a situation where he was stuck with a, no real assignment. He just been around, at this point, he'd been around there over 3 years, and he wasn't he never made BM3 until he literally got the announcement 3 days before he left, while he was in the middle of checkout. I think he got it annotated at least on his record, but they kind of let him. He was competent in his work. He was a good guy. He was who he was, but he was kind of left to his own devices, and he took advantage of it. And he just came up with this idea. He just kind of ended up walking around aimlessly, trying to think of something to do. I mean, he had maintenance to do and sign for, which was about the only work he was putting in. So between that and really just walking around aimlessly, holding those two items, the marlin spike and the line, and looking like he was going somewhere with a purpose at about all times, he got away with 2 weeks of not doing shit other than what he absolutely had to fucking do in terms of, maintenance requirements he had to sign, or, duty day stuff. But other than that, yeah, that dude just took 2 weeks off, essentially. A lot of smoke breaks. But yeah, he was finally caught after about 2 weeks. The BM1 kind of noticed his game and asked what he was doing, and he pointed to his items, and he's like, not really doing anything. All right. Well, go over and help, whatever team or something. So it was an acknowledgement. There's some real recognizing real there. He knew what Derike had been doing, and he respected his game. He knew he'd been getting away with it for a while. So just let him go. And, he told me that story too, and I, of course, laughed my ass off because that's just very Derike. So where did he go wrong there? Well, pretty obvious he took it too far. He was playing a game where, partially because he was so short, I think he was within his last 6-month window at that point. He just didn't care. He knew they weren't going to do anything really terrible to him. They liked him too much, and they respected him, his position. He was kind of a senior deck seaman at the point. And, he knew, if more than what he got, which was nothing, it'd be a slap on the wrist that he wouldn't give a shit about. At worst, maybe EMI, and he was willing to take it. But he pushed it too long. After that first week, he should have just thanked his lucky stars and went and found something to do the next week. But again, knowing your situation and knowing what your worst case scenario is always probably a good idea to have in mind when you're skating. And that brings me to my next one, which is another one that is my own example from my own, skating gone wrong. And, and I always regret it because I should have known better in this situation. I'd been around long enough. Now, when I was cranking, we had one of those mornings, backtrack a little bit here. I've been cranking, probably, it was at the 2-month mark here, 1 to go. And, I was working deep sink in the galley, which meant, long, grueling hours of constantly washing heavy, stinky, hot dishes, scrubbing off rice and lasagna, all that fun stuff. Basically, at the end of the day, I had to immediately take a shower because I stank like absolute rank ass. It was like you almost smell like garbage by the end of every day. But, at this point, it was like just one of those rare late mornings where, we finished, cleaning up after breakfast. And generally, you end up turning right into, doing dishes and the lunch prep. Because in reality, there's not a lot of downtime in the mess decks. They're working, 24/7 underway. Obviously, night crew's a little laxer, but, between lunch and breakfast, there's not a lot of time. It's happening one of those really slow mornings. I don't know what was going on. But we cleaned up after breakfast, and a couple more came in, and then we were standing there for a good 10 minutes. So we look over at the cooks, see what's possibly coming, and it seems like they're, it doesn't seem like any of that. They were doing something else, that looks like whatever they're cooking could be put on the back burner, ha ha ha. So we went out for a smoke, and, me and the other deep sink guys discussed our options. I was like, I think we can get away with a good, just fucking go fuck off for an hour. come back. Yeah, there might be, the dishes will have start piling up by then. They might be like, hey, what the fuck happened? But they're probably not going to notice for, at least forever how long, just because it's going so slow and they're concentrating on something else. So that's what we did. And I think we're about 50 minutes into it when one of us got caught by somebody coming around looking for us. Though, of course, we were at least smart enough to know don't go to your rack, don't go to your berthing. If you're going to skate off, you'll find somewhere. Not the obvious places they're going to go look for you. A lot of people used our berthing. We were directly behind the mess decks. And, middle of the day between, the chow hours, in port or at sea, I'd go to the berthing for a piss or whatever, and there'd be, mess cranks in there, napping in our lounge. No one was around on berthing crew or whatever. So, of course, our own cranks did that, lived in the admin berthing. But that was the first place they always looked because that's where everyone went. They were just, especially the admin people knew better, actually, But, the other ones didn't know that, of course, this is the first goddamn place they're going to look because it's the nearest, bunch of chairs in a quiet, out-of-the-way place. So I'm in some out-of-the-way place playing my Game Boy, I think. I still had the original. I think I borrowed some games I never played from buddies of mine. And, I was at 45, 50 minutes into our little break. I'm paying attention to the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to head back here. I was about to wrap it up anyway and go smoke before I went back. And I believe it was my buddy Tony came in. He said, dude, they're looking for us. Get back. And I was like, all right. I think Tony was it was Deep Sink and Bake Shop guys. So I think Tony sometimes worked with us. Sometimes he worked in the Bake Shop. But anyways. So we head back, and I slide in, no one caught us on the way, and I just immediately start getting to the dishes. And one of the other dishes guys was there. The other one hadn't quite made it back, so we're just acting like we've been there the whole time, or at least trying. But what sucked for us was it wasn't like, where the hell you guys been? Get back to work, just kind of a gruff yelling out. No. It was enough of we'd caused enough of a consternation just not being able to, they started looking for us a lot earlier than we expected if they were. And, managed to rile up enough people that, EMI came, I don't know how far up the word got. I don't think it was all the way to Senior Chief Baker, but it was at least to MS1. And it came back down and it was an MS2. None of us liked anyway. Ended up, charging us, and we got EMI, which meant for the next, 5 days we had to work with the night crew for 2 extra hours after chow. After dinner time, when we normally be off after cleanup. So where did we go wrong? Well, I think there's a couple of obvious things here. One, overestimating, how long it would take them to notice us gone. I think we definitely overestimated that, and I think we should have known a little better on that it was very possible that they would notice us sooner rather than later. Two, all splitting up, all hiding. Like, we I think Tony found me because he knew that was one of our spots. And he also, the other guy he found, Aaron's, at least there's another guy he found, I think he did go back to his berthing and sleep in his rack, but he was in the Marine berthing, so it's a little different. They don't really, sometimes they will go look, but, I think they have to figure out which one he's in, because there's 3 or 4 Marine berthings, and, they don't know where the fuck this guy is. They have to figure out and specifically go looking for him, so. But, that's how they found us. We did not coordinate. We did, at best we should have stuck together. Just find a space that's just not being occupied and fucking chill. And send back a runner every once in a while to, see if anything's going on. It's skating, but there's a level of vigilance, you should be playing when you're skating. And we failed our vigilance test. We failed our ability to coordinate and make sure we all knew where each other was and we could, fix it in a hurry if we had to. And it's very possible we could have got away with that for at least, maybe 20 minutes and nothing would have happened. And that probably would have been just good enough. It's like, hey, we gave it a little shot. We took basically an extended smoke break. I don't think they would have cared because, again, it was going slow. But, we screwed ourselves. We rolled the dice hoping for not to be noticed till a lot later, and we failed. So remember, even when you think no one's watching you, a lot of times there are people watching you. Now, here's another example of skating gone right. This one I just told not too long ago on talking about Fox Division. Or, I was watching welders and whatnot. But let's talk about it again, and let's explore it a little bit and see what I did right on this. Now, this was, I think I described back on the fire, going through, when you do fire watches, you're standing there with a pair of goggles on and flash gear watching a welder, making sure things aren't catching fire because his focus is narrowed on his weld, not, everything around him being on fire. This also includes standing on the other side of overheads, bulkheads, decks, anything that the other end could catch on fire, they want someone in that space. Now, I've been in Fox Division for a while at this point. Definitely, I knew my ins and outs of trying to catch catnaps on here, because that's the game of the game here in terms of your skating. In this, I'd heard of these primo spots, just where people would just sleep all morning. Because the actual welders, the Japanese ship repair force workers, didn't give a fuck. They thought they were bullshit watches. They did them because the Navy made them do it. They actually had their own guys, but, we were required to add extra. So, they really, they just kind of let us do whatever the fuck we wanted. They were just cool as shit about it. And I just got one of those primo deals. It's like I was going to be the other side of the bulkhead I was going to be on was I think it was like a first or second star admiral stateroom we had, because it was the Blue Ridge, and it's a flagship, and we have a lot of big honking staterooms around, not just for the 3-star that rides us. So I take the advantage of it. Get into the room. The guy shows me. He says I'll be signs to me. He's going to be back at 11. Break for lunch. Standard protocol. I say okay. Close the door. Take off my boots, hit that big old nice bed, and I was out until he knocked on the door. Like, you can't go wrong with that. That is primo fucking skating and nearly fucking airtight. So what do I do right here? I mean, obviously I picked my spot. This is a locked room. Only person with the key, the only person with the combo is the, I think it would be like probably the supply officers in charge of wardrooms and whoever the crank was that was in charge of cleaning it, because it wasn't a permanent guest in there. It was a room we kept for visiting admirals. So in order for them to, they had to come in and open the room in the first place and put the combo in, and basically I was locked in there. The only way I was going to get discovered was the crank coming back and being a snitch, which wasn't going to, super low chance of that happening. Because, we're all E3s at the time. We're all in it together. No one would fucking... I can't think of anybody I knew back during that time that would have been such a Blue Falcon. But, so that was low. So basically my main concern would have been, of course, an actual fire breaking out of my enemy, not noticing and dying. Smoke inhalation or something. I guess that could have happened. But, pretty low, or, whoever else had access to the code coming in for some reason, which again would be incredibly low that they would have any reason other than to check on me. And that would be the other thing. Maybe the fire marshal come around and try to sneak in. I think that would have been my biggest hurdle, but I rolled those dice and it didn't come up. Fire marshal has a lot of better things to do than go around looking for sleeping fire watches. Not to mention I did pop up a few times. I heard a noise and was worried someone was opening the combination. It's one of those push button bunch of 1, 2, 3, 4s under the door kind of things. So yeah, I rolled those dice. I looked at my probability. I look at my my statistics. What I think is most likely and what is most unlikely, and I thought I was pretty good to knock out for basically 4 hours on a big nice bed, and I was right. And yeah, it was good times. So I think those are good examples and a lot of advice to take away, especially for the junior guys that listen to this for how to get along. Obviously everyone's going to have their different level of work, but about everyone skates at some point. Even the most hard charging guy, sometimes you just got to take a break for your people when you're getting fucked. So and sometimes it's just like, this is bullshit. I don't want to fucking do it. So a couple other some general advice. If you get picked for like a giant working party or you do a lot of moving parts, generally you're putting together ceremony or retirement or something along those lines, where they just got a bunch of bodies and you're stuck moving chairs a lot of times. A trick there is they'll start, a lot of times they'll ask for volunteers. Is like, hey, we need someone to be in charge of this, this, and this, and this. Pay attention and look for something that sounds like, through your level of experience, like there's something I can get away with getting away with not doing a whole lot of shit. Because what happens a lot of times in those situations, no one wants to volunteer for anything. No one wants to be in charge of anything. So they just sit back there, lumps on a log, and they end up, carrying giant stacks of chairs and tables and other assorted things. Which, yes, I mean, depending on the size of the working party, you can definitely skate off and get through. But run your probabilities again. You get caught in a situation like that, that might be some hell to pay. So it would be definitely one of those situations where you're counting on no one noticing you being gone, which, as like I said earlier, someone's always watching just about, even when you think absolutely no one cares. So keep that in mind, but find a job. If you're maybe you're in a place where not a lot of people have cars, maybe it's overseas, like in Japan. Hey, you got a POV. It's like, hey, I can carry back supplies and coordination with blah, 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 blah. You know what that means? Yeah, you're in charge of something, and you have to accomplish things, which, depending on how much you're willing to put into the skate, you can do. And also your level of just basic competence, I suppose. But, yeah, you're out of everyone's sight, and you're going somewhere in your car. It's like, you take a little extra time, and most people aren't going to fucking notice. As long as it eventually gets done, don't overstretch it. Know your limitations, I guess, is the name of the game here. And final little bit, if you're going to play this game of skating and getting out of bullshit like working parties and whatnot, know the players. Know your situational awareness always matters. This is no different. This is knowing your coworkers, knowing who could be possible fucking snitches. We're talking here lower levels, E3s. Most are pretty good about it, but some ain't, man. Blue Falcon's a term for a reason, man. Snitches are out there. So it behooves you before you embark on any skating quest to know who you can trust and who you can't. Know your supervisors. Know who does watch people like a hawk, who does find fucking people that are skating off all the time. Know which ones are kind of lax about it. Putting all this together, the situation you're in, and the chances of someone coming looking for you, chances of you having plausible deniability, all things you need to put together in your skating game if you want to earn that big medal with the 2 skates on it. That's what I would suggest. If you got anything for me, vets with tales from the fleet of their own skate shenanigans or similar stories from the civilian world and skating out of work, I'd love to hear them. You can go ahead and put them in the comments, and if everyone would like, I get enough people behind it, my next live will be, trying to stay on topic of, skate stories. These usually go way off topic, but that's just nature of my audience, I guess, who have a lot of things to talk to me about. But that'll be the attempt. So let me know in the comments, and I will catch you freaks later. And hopefully, other than the live show, next one will be a very long overdue military movie bullshit. Catch you later.